You're listening to Murder Not Murdering with Erin
and Autumn,
a true crime podcast about murder and murdering.
but we are not murderers.
All right, everybody, we're back with Erin, Autumn, and
Tim.
I like how she didn't even let me
Tim.
say my own name.
Nah, you're just old hat now.
She skipped right over me.
Okay, welcome back to Murder Not Murdering with Erin,
Autumn,
and
Tim.
Woo!
Yay!
There we go. We're all gangs all here.
We're so excited to have Tim on the podcast with us.
It's really fun to have another person that's
I'm
not
sick
Autumn.
of Erin. Yeah, here we go.
So I've known Tim since I was 17 years old. He was my first boss when we worked at McCormick and Schmick's Harborside on Lake Union. And so we've known each other ever since then. And I introduced Tim to Autumn maybe like a couple years after Tim and I were friends, I think. Because I know we all hung out on my 21st.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Autumn,
before that.
Yeah, we hung out before that.
Yeah, it was before that.
I swear to God. Fun fact, though, Autumn stole Tim's shoes on my 21st birthday and only returned them, a year ago?
Like a year or two ago, yeah.
Yeah, so kept them about, 20 years then?
Something like that. And I'm like, here you go. Here's your flip-flops.
But
and then he lost them, so I kept them very well for him for years and years, and then
it's like they were never there again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've known Tim a long time, and then when Tim was in nursing school, because Tim's profession is a registered nurse, during nursing school Tim lived with me, so that was kind of fun, and we had a lot of good times during that.
Absolutely.
Tim, why don't you tell us what you do now as far as your profession?
I am a registered nurse, and I work with patients that don't need to be in the hospital but aren't ready to go home yet.
Yeah.
So they are, transitional care.
Yeah. Because we're using Tim today not only as a buffer between me and Autumn so we don't fight it out, but we're using Tim also as an expert in the field because we are both doing cases on nurses. And I secretly know that both Autumn and I are doing cases on male nurses as well. So really close to home for Tim.
We're funny like that.
We're hilarious.
We were like, we're going to have Tim on. And then I'm like, you know what would be funny is if we did cases on nurses.
Well, the hardest thing I think for me is when I do mine takes place in modern times because there weren't a lot of male nurses back in the day. It was always women, and most of them didn't have proper medical training. A lot of the cases that I was looking at are people that were doing like insurance scams and stuff like that, and getting people to, I'm going to take care of you, and then they took care of them while they took all of their money. That happened a lot through history, especially with hardly any forensics and everything. So mine it was really hard for me to try to track down like a 1900s male nurse. There wasn't much of that. There's a lot of just female nurses, and then tons though of doctors. There's so many doctors that kill in that time period. Loads of them.
This is very true.
But I wanted to stick to nurses for mine, and I know Autumn did too. So I'm excited about this. I mean, these are terrible cases.
Terrible cases.
Horrible.
We are not excited about people being murdered.
No, I think Autumn and I picked the worst male nurses of all time.
This is true. And I bet you when I start talking about mine, I think Tim will probably know this one.
I knew of yours because Autumn just we want to make sure we didn't do the same case. But I didn't research yours. But it was a really popular one, so I was glad you told me ahead of time.
That would have been really annoying if we had the same case, because then he
That
would
would
have
have
had to listen to
been
it twice.
yeah. And then we
Because
would
we
make you
wouldn't have
decide
changed it, right? Like, we wouldn't have changed it, and then we would have
no,
said, "Which one sold it better?"
who did
And
it
you would have
best.
had to voted.
And Tim would have been horribly uncomfortable.
Yes.
Definitely.
Choose which one, and then you would choose
Yeah.
Erin, and then I would cry. No, just
I'll
kidding,
be
because I'm
cry
a
about it.
crier.
Um, so my case takes place in Germany, but when I was looking up this case, another one came up in the process, and that one was this German nurse that I don't know if you ever heard about this, Tim, but I read about it in like a nurse's journal or something. And it was about a German nurse who got tired of the amount of patients they had at night, and they said that they had just too much of a workload and not enough nurses, so he just started killing people. He was like, that
Makes
person was
Wow.
sense.
he was like, "That person was really annoying, and this one was really taxing, so I just got rid of the ones that were bothering me." I was just like, "Oh my god." And I didn't do that one, but it was in my list. There just wasn't a ton of
Seems
information,
legit.
but it was in there. I was like, "Oh, wow." So, understaffed and those people were annoying, so I got rid of them. I was like, "Jesus." And some gentle nursing. Nurse Ratchet.
Oh,
But
boy.
anyways, I'm going to start my case if you both are ready for it.
Girl, you know I'm always ready. You're the one that says, "Your chair's squeaking. Drink of water." Like, I can't move. Like,
Don't even breathe.
s- abuse. Abuse.
All right. So here we go. I'm going to start now. My case is the nurse who played God, the case
Ooh.
of Niels Högel. And I am going to do my very best with all of the German words. So
Oh, this
that's
should be good.
that's the best that I can do.
Got it.
All right. Hospitals. We think of them as sanctuaries. We think of them as clean, sterile, and safe. Places where white coats and gloved hands work miracles. Where the hum of monitors and the hiss of oxygen mean the difference between life and death. We rarely think about who holds the syringe, who programs the IV pump, who decides in those quiet midnight hours what drugs to push into our veins. We tell ourselves hospitals are safe because they must be safe, because to believe otherwise would make walking through those doors unbearable. But what if the very hands meant to save us were the ones putting us in danger? Today, we unravel the story of Niels Högel, a German nurse who prosecutors believe may have killed more patients than almost any other in German history. A man who turned the intensive care unit into his personal stage. A man who liked to play God, who needed attention, craved it. This is not a story of quick rage, not a crime of passion. This is a story of routine, of repetition, of medical precision twisted into murder. Niels Högel was born December 30th, 1976, in Wilhelmshaven, a northern German port city. There wasn't a lot of information about his childhood, but he was known to be a little bit ignored and kind of outshined by others, which left him seeking validation from many. His father was also a nurse. Niels grew up watching his father work, and by 1997, he had graduated nursing school himself, following the family path into intensive care. He was described as friendly, helpful, even cheerful. He liked joking with coworkers, chatting with patients, and volunteering even through the tough shifts. On the surface, he was exactly the kind of nurse you'd want by your bedside, the kind you trust with your life. But soon, patterns began to emerge. At Oldenburg Hospital, where he started in 1999, patients coded. They went into sudden cardiac arrest far more often when he was on duty than when anyone else was. And Högel was always there, always in the center of the action. Chest compressions, defibrillator paddles, syringes at the ready. His colleagues gave him a nickname. It wasn't subtle. They called him Resuscitation Rambo. At first, it was a joke, nurse humor to cope with the grim realities of the ICU, where life hangs by a thread. But as time went on, that nickname carried an edge of unease because Högel's patients weren't getting better. They were dying. But why would a nurse deliberately push a patient into cardiac arrest? What could possibly motivate them to do something like that? To understand that, we need to understand his weapons. Picture the crash cart, a red metal cabinet with drawers parked in the corner of the ICU, stocked with emergency drugs, intubation tubes, syringes, and defibrillator pads. The crash cart is a lifeline when a patient's heart stops. Inside are the medications powerful enough to stop or save a human heart. Adrenaline and lidocaine, drugs used to stabilize irregular heartbeats. In the wrong hands, in the wrong dose, they don't stabilize, they kill. Amiodarone, a potent antiarrhythmic that can push a heart into a dangerous bradycardia? Bradycardia?
Nailed it.
Shut up, Autumn. Verapamil, a calcium channel blocker that slows the heartbeat until, at high doses, it stops altogether. Tim, would you say I was accurate in that description?
I believe so.
Well, secret is in the sauce because I made Tim tell me how to pronounce those
Yes,
since
she
I did not
did.
know them. And all of that was edited out. All of these drugs are meant to be used sparingly, carefully, with clear medical justification. But in the ICU, there's a system built on trust. Nurses must have quick access when seconds matter. There's no time to wait for a doctor to always sign off. And Högel had everything he needed. He would inject patients who did not need it. Their hearts would falter, rhythms collapse into chaos, monitors would scream, staff would rush in. And there was Högel, our resuscitation Rambo, right in the center. The hero, the rescuer, the one pounding on the chest, calling for the crash cart, trying to shock the patient back into life. But more often than not, they died. So I'm going to bring Tim back in because for some of us outside of medicine, this can seem very terrifying. And I know Tim does not know German medical laws, so these are broad spectrum questions. And also, I know that Tim doesn't work in the ICU. So again, broad spectrum, answer the best that to your knowledge.
Don't
got
mess
it.
up.
So how easy is it for a nurse to have access to a crash cart, usually? Are they in mostly in hospitals? They're in the rooms often, right? In the ICU especially.
Or nearby, yes.
Nearby. Yeah, so it's pretty easy for them to have access to it. But as far as like opening them, do you need keys? Is that something that you do? Or can you just like get to it right away because it's a crash cart?
The ones we use are simpler, so they don't have the medications. So
Okay.
you just break a seal to get in. I imagine at the hospital, it probably varies. I'm sure it's harder than it used to be, but
Yeah. So this is all of this took place in the 2000s. So I'm sure I mean I know things changed because of this case. So I was just wondering, do you think it could have been easy possibly for someone like Högel to draw up that type of drug and give it without anyone noticing?
I think I think it would I think you could definitely do it easier
Yeah.
than today.
Sure. And I mean, how often are nurses? There's times that nurses are in there by themselves with the patient and not other nurses there to witness anything, right? You
The
don't go in
majority of the
pairs.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it would be easy for him to do that and not get caught, I would imagine. And then I was going to ask you, well, I guess you kind of answered this. I was going to say how um, are crash carts monitored for the amount of medications that they have or recorded the amount that they used? But I'm assuming since yours doesn't have that, it's not necessarily any information we would know. But
Yeah.
I know that things changed because of this case. So, like I said, I do know that all of this, like I said, took place in the early 2000s. So, by the early 2000s, whispers were starting to spread through Oldenburg Hospital. Colleagues noticed that mortality rates spiked when Högel worked. One internal report later found that the number of deaths doubled during his shifts. Doctors noticed too. Who were stable would suddenly code after that nurse left the room. And he was, and hold on, I'm going to say that again. Doctors noticed too, patients who were stable would suddenly code after a nurse left the room, and that nurse was almost always Högel. But instead of
Suspicious.
very suspicious. But instead of investigating fully, the hospital did something crazy. They just transferred him rather than dealing with anything with him. So he moved from intensive care to anesthesia. And when things didn't improve, Oldenburg quietly pressured him out in 2002, and he left with no official record of wrongdoing. And soon after, he was hired at Delmenhorst Clinic, a smaller hospital nearby. No warnings given, no red flags passed along. This game of pass along the problem would prove fatal. Because at Delmenhorst, the pattern repeated. Patients coded suddenly, mortality rates rose, and once again, the common denominator was Högel. By 2003, colleagues were openly joking that if you wanted to die, you should schedule your operation during Högel's shifts. But still, no one stopped him. And I'm going to bring Tim back in because I wanted to ask if there are any systems that you're aware of that are in place to catch anomalies like this, like frequencies of death during specific nurses' shifts or time of day.
I think because of cases like this, there are now systems in place, but I don't think there were because I think there's a lot of cases where a problem nurse was passed on to another facility.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you think that the fear of scandal or liability played a role in those hospitals trying to stay quiet rather than acting on some sort of ramification for that?
100%. It's not good faith. It's just to protect the hospital.
Yeah.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't until 2005, that's 2 more years, until Niels Högel was finally caught. A fellow nurse at Delmenhorst walked in and saw him injecting a patient with a drug that hadn't been ordered, hadn't been prescribed. The patient immediately collapsed, sliding into cardiac arrest. And this time, there was no way to explain it away. The police were called. Högel was arrested on suspicion of attempted manslaughter. And at first, the case seemed small, a rogue nurse caught in one act. But as investigators dug, they realized the scope might be something staggering. So they started to begin to exhume bodies. They tested the tissue samples for traces of antiarrhythmic drugs. And everywhere they looked, Högel's fingerprints appeared. Patients who died unexpectedly showed traces of all of those drugs that I mentioned earlier, drugs that they never should have received. Högel started to confess to some, denied others, and sometimes he claimed that he just wanted to practice his resuscitation skills, like
Oh,
a good nurse,
yeah.
you know.
Do you do that too, Tim?
I take a CPR class. That's enough of practice for me.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
not just practicing on actual
No.
humans.
Oh, okay.
I
I
prefer
get it.
not to, if
Yeah,
possible.
I would
Okay.
imagine. Other times, he said he did it because he was bored, because the adrenaline made him feel alive. And the irony of the fact that he was killing people to feel alive is not great. One prosecutor later said bluntly his hobby was bringing people to the brink of death, then trying to resuscitate them. His hobby.
Jesus.
Hobby. The legal process stretched for years. In 2008, Högel was convicted of attempted manslaughter for that 2005 incident and was sentenced to 7 years. But the investigation kept growing. More exhumations, more toxicology, More deaths tied back to him. By 2014, he was charged again, this time for multiple murders. He admitted to dozens more in interviews. At this point, they had already exhumed over 100 bodies.
Oh my God.
Finally, it's a lot. It gets worse. Finally, in 2019, he stood trial for one of the largest medical murder cases in German history. Families packed the courtroom, mothers, fathers, siblings, people who had buried their loved ones years earlier, told they died of natural causes, now forced to hear that maybe, just maybe, those deaths were actually murder. Your crimes are impossible to grasp, Judge Sebastian Berman told him, referencing the sheer scale of the atrocities. In June of 2019, Högel was convicted of 85 murders.
Oh my God.
That is the official number that they could prove, but investigators believe the true total could be more than 300 patients. 300 lives, 300 beds empty, 300 families given grief instead of healing. The Niels Högel case left Germany shaken. Hospitals were forced to reckon with their oversight failures. Families were left without closure because the true number of victims may never be known. It's raised haunting questions about trust. When we are at our sickest, when we hand our lives to strangers in scrubs and white coats, how do we know those lives are safe? For every patient who survived, dozens didn't. For every family that got an answer, dozens more never will. And in the end, Högel sits in a German prison serving life. A man who admitted that the adrenaline, the drama, and the feeling of control was worth more to him than human lives. Hospitals are sanctuaries, but sanctuaries are only as safe as the people who guard them. And sometimes that angel by your bedside is the one who's holding the syringe. And not Tim. Tim would never.
Tim would never.
I would think about it. I wouldn't do it.
My sources were Wikipedia, All That's Interesting, The Associated Press, BBC, People Magazine, CBS News, Sky News, and Newsweek.
Our cases are very similar.
Yeah. I mean, I know yours is a high number also.
I mean, very similar.
I don't know the circumstances of yours, but I do know that it's also a high number.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was just I just couldn't believe it when I was reading his case that he was like, "Oh, yeah." At first, it seemed like he wanted the attention, right? He wanted people to be like, "Look at him. He's out there saving these lives and he's really trying to help them." And then he was like, "No, I was just like kind of practicing on them and then I did it when I was bored."
It's like wild. I mean,
I was just like bored that
even?
day. I had to liven up my afternoon. Like
Like-
it's just kind of crazy. Not afternoon. I know he tended to work the night shifts.
Ooh,
I think-
stigma.
I think he just was doing that also because there's probably more activity and more people in the daytime. I would assume.
People are sleeping. Fewer just employees in general at night shift.
Yeah, and you're not trying to like go in and wake people up and stuff unless you have to, right? You're just monitoring them. So it'd be easy for him to sneak into somebody's room with the medication and they'd be like, "Oh shit, Jane is crashing over there. I don't know what happened." You know?
But I gave her CPR.
Yeah, he sure saved her life. But, you know, more often than not, he didn't. 300 times to be
Jesus
more accurate.
Christ.
But for now, that's it. It's 80. Oh, wait. A new recording. Oh, weird. Okay, anyway. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy that 85 of them they were absolutely able to prove. Some of the ones that they exhumed, they said that they weren't able to prove it because the tissues were just too damaged or there's been too much decomposition. But wild, right?
Absolutely insane.
That's a lot of people.
That's not me, just so we're clear.
Is that you, Tim?
My headphones died.
Oh, that's why. It made a thing where it was like Tim. It said
Died.
Tim Yeah, it said Tim's recording has
Did you do
changed.
CPR?
Oh, ba-boom.
Can I use your headphones?
No, mine are on my head.
Sorry.
You better
Ruined.
be. Is Matt listening too?
He is, because now it's on the computer and not on.
Let me adjust some
Don't
for your
judge
gum.
us.
We're gonna switch headphones so I can come back.
Okay. Baby, come back.
You can blame it all on me.
Blame it
Don't
all
worry, we
on the
don't usually blame
alcohol.
anyone. Only Erin does. I'm forgiving and understanding.
Oh, let's bring that up then, because you're the nice one.
I don't think any of us are the nice one.
But you claimed many times that out of the three of us, you are the nice one.
Oh, these ones.
I think I'm nicer, but mostly because I'm just not as wild.
I
I
think that we both
disagree.
have murder lists, and I don't think Erin does. So I don't think we can be the nice ones.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a. She's hiding it. There's no way she doesn't have a murder list.
Well,
Have
you're
you
on
met
it
her?
now.
Right? Like, have you met her? She has a murder list.
You know what it is, though, is I think that I'm, when people meet me, I'm a lot more social. I will just like start talking to anybody. And if anybody talks to me, I give them time and I'm friendlier than either of you.
Yes, I would have 100% agree with that.
Yeah. I think Tim is the nicest one as far as like,
I would have to agree. Tim is the nicest one.
and he's in a caring, job. I don't have to give a shit. I do. I care about what I do, but you know what I mean? Like I'm not taking care of anybody. I'm
have
just
to
trying to make
care.
them I'm just trying to make them have a good time. I'm throwing parties. It's not as serious as
Favorite line in my line of work, because it is a very stressful line of work, is we're not saving lives. No one actually died. But in Tim's world, that's not true.
Yes,
potential.
Exactly.
There is potential for people to actually die on a bad day. So
I think of it as like just taking the time to take care of someone is a lot of work. Having to,
yes.
change out bandages and make sure that you're doing everything in a way that doesn't cause the least amount of discomfort. So that is a very admirable
100%.
job.
It takes a very special person to be a nurse.
Yes. And we're very grateful to you, Tim, as being one of the good ones out there.
Oh, yeah.
Doing the job.
I mean, anytime I'm in the emergency room or have any problems, I'm texting Tim. What does this mean?
I mean, I think Tim's our first point.
Yes.
All right. We are back. Okay, so I think we're ready to jump into Autumn's murder case.
Yes, I cannot wait.
Tim, are you
I am
ready
ready.
for this?
Okay,
Let's do
everybody
it.
get ready, because here it comes.
I think we were ready. We're stayed ready.
Okay, perfect.
Go.
Because mine is Charles Cullen, the angel of death.
Do you know when I heard that?
He
I
has
thought
no
Edward Cullen.
relation. I know. I was about to say he has no relation to Twilight or Carlisle Cullen or any of those people.
So he doesn't sparkle in the sunlight?
I don't think so. This guy is a really awful human, and he
then maybe we shouldn't
does
joke.
not sparkle.
There's no sparkles in sight.
Dark
All
and
right.
rude, I guess.
Let's hear about this rude dude.
Okay. Our stories are so similar, it's kind of creepy, but here we go.
Okay.
How does a man sworn to heal become one of the deadliest serial killers in American history? Charles Cullen wasn't hiding in the shadows. He wasn't lurking in alleyways. He was a nurse, wearing scrubs, moving through hospital corridors, answering call lights, and standing at the bedsides of the sick and the vulnerable. And yet, behind that calm, professional mask, he was quietly taking lives, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. This is the story of Charles Cullen, the so-called Angel of Death. Charles Cullen was born in 1960 in New Jersey, the youngest of 8 children in a working-class family. His childhood was marked by loss. His father died when Charles was an infant, and his mother was killed in a car accident when he was still a teenager. Cullen was a troubled young man. He attempted suicide multiple times before adulthood. He described himself as feeling like an outsider, like he didn't belong anywhere. And yet, he chose a career in nursing, a field where compassion and stability are essential. By the late 1980s, Cullen had graduated nursing school and found his first job. It would have been the start of a life spent caring for others. Instead, it became the beginning of a nightmare. Cullen's first known murder happened in 1988 at St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey. His victim, a 72-year-old man recovering from a respiratory illness. Cullen injected him with a lethal dose of medication, ending his life. That was just the start. Over the next 16 years, Cullen worked at at least 9 hospitals and 1 nursing home. Everywhere he went, patients began dying unexpectedly. He didn't use a gun or a knife. Instead, he slipped drugs into IV bags or injected medications directly into his patients. Insulin, dioxin, epinephrine, drugs that could stop a heart in seconds. He later told investigators that he believed he was ending suffering. But the truth is far more complicated. Many of his victims weren't terminal. Some were even improving. One was a priest recovering from a routine illness. Another, a young woman who was expected to live. The deaths didn't fit the story he told himself. It didn't take long for hospitals to notice strange patterns around Cullen. Patients who weren't expected to die suddenly crashed when he was on duty. Drug inventories didn't line up. Colleagues grew uneasy. But here's where the story turns from horrifying to almost unbelievable.
I don't know how it gets much worse.
I know, right? Like, Jesus. Instead of calling police or launching formal investigations, hospitals quietly pushed him out. They allowed him to resign rather than face scandal. Some even wrote neutral recommendations so he could move on.
I do not
Gross.
understand that.
Like, what the hell? Like, that's what happened in yours too.
I know. That's wild to me.
I guess this was like standard back then because that's insanity.
That's just crazy.
And so irresponsible.
They all suspect him of killing people and that
Mhm. This practice, sometimes called passing the trash, protected hospital reputations and allowed Cullen to keep killing. It happened again and again, 9 different hospitals, and with each move, more deaths. By the early 2000s, Cullen was working at Somerset Medical Center in Somerville, New Jersey.
I can't believe we're both in the 2000s.
I
too.
know that. I just like it's.
He started earlier.
Yes.
He started earlier, though.
He had been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Once again, patients began dying in unusual numbers. The hospital's computer system showed Cullen assessing patients' charts he wasn't assigned to. Medications were missing. And this time, people started paying closer attention. One of Cullen's colleagues, a nurse named Amy Walgren, noticed the irregularities. She grew suspicious that Cullen was behind the deaths. When investigators approached her, she agreed to help. She wore a wire in conversations with him, risking her safety to confirm what was happening.
I mean, even fair to say she was risking her life because what's stopping him with
Yeah,
injecting her with something too, you know?
100%. 100%. The evidence piled up, and finally, in December 2003, police arrested Charles Cullen. Now back to Amy. You may recognize her story because the Netflix series The Good Nurse is based on her.
Oh.
Amy Loughren had grown close to Charles Cullen. She considered him a friend. But as the deaths mounted, she started noticing the red flags too. When investigators approached her, Amy faced a terrifying decision. She could stay silent, or she could help them gather evidence against the man she had trusted. Obviously, she chose to help.
Good for
Amy,
her.
right? And then she got Netflix thing after her. Good job,
Even
Amy.
better. You get it. Get your comeuppance, Amy.
Yes, get your comeuppance, Amy. Amy wore a wire in conversations with Cullen. She risked her own safety, sitting across from him, coaxing out details, while detectives listened from the other side of the glass. She told later how conflicted she felt. She was terrified, heartbroken, and betrayed. But she kept going because she knew the killing had to stop. Her courage made the difference. Cullen finally incriminated himself, and with Amy's cooperation, police arrested him in December of 2003. Without
Wow.
her, Cullen might still have been killing
Most likely, right?
because no one was doing
Yeah.
shit about it.
They were passing on the trash.
Yeah. Once in custody, Cullen confessed freely. He admitted to killing at least 40 patients, though investigators believe the real number could be 300 to 400.
Yeah.
If true, that would make him the most prolific serial killer in American history.
That's
And
just wild.
I know, it's like insane to think about.
Mm-hmm.
In 2006, he was sentenced to multiple life terms. He will never leave prison.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Right? Cullen claimed he killed to end suffering, but investigators and families of his victims have never bought that explanation. To many of the people he killed, they were not suffering, they were healing. Some experts believe he craved control. Others think he was playing God, deciding who lived and who died. The truth may be something darker that Cullen simply couldn't stop. The fallout from Cullen's crimes was massive. Hospitals were forced to confront their failures. New rules were put in place requiring hospitals to report suspicious deaths and problem employees. Hiring standards became stricter. His case also inspired books, documentaries, and the Netflix film The Good Nurse, which highlighted the bravery of Amy Loughren, whose decision to act finally brought him down. But even now, decades later, one question lingers. How many victims were there really?
I
Cullen
think,
himself refuses to say.
of course. I think, though, given the fact that in the 80s, they weren't as,
Suspicious.
well,
Mhm.
not as high tech with like computers and following. You were
Right,
paper
like
and pen
logging
and stuff.
in and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I would imagine that during that time, he probably was able to commit a lot more than
Mhm.
once it was easier to track where meds have been or how much has been used and all of that later
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Charles Cullen betrayed the trust of patients, families, and colleagues. He turned hospitals, places of healing, into hunting grounds. And maybe the most haunting part is this: the true number of lives he took will never be known. His victims were mothers and fathers, grandparents, and friends, people who walked into hospitals seeking care and never came out again. Charles Cullen wasn't a shadowy figure hiding in the night. He was standing in plain sight, wearing scrubs, carrying a stethoscope, smiling at patients while he planned their deaths. And in the end, the hands that were meant to heal became the hands of a killer. My sources were The Good Nurse, a true story of medicine, madness, and murder, New Jersey Department of Corrections inmate records for Charles Cullen, The Good Nurse, I watched it, Netflix show 2022, CNN Archives, The New York Times, Wikipedia, NewJersey.com, and 60 Minutes CBS News, The Angel of Death.
Dang. They were very similar, but different.
Very similar. Now, would you have caught this person if
I
he
would
was your
think
coworker,
that someone
Tim?
would notice, right?
Right? Like, I mean, anywhere that this guy
Yeah, I
was,
rat on
people
him
were
And
for
would you
sure.
rat
just
on him?
dying. Yeah, would you wear a wire?
Yeah,
I
100%.
Tim's
get
a
paid
nice
to be
friend.
nice. That's what that is.
Exactly.
He would
I
rat.
think-
Yes.
I think too, like I said, I think he probably got away with more of it back in the day. But there was a lot of, when I was researching, I'm sure when you were, Autumn, was a lot of angel of mercy, where they're
Mhm.
like helping people, like Kevorkian type, we're helping
Right.
people pass on that's their wishes and all of that, or ending suffering. But I mean, if there were people improving and people doing better and he was a fucking nurse, then he sure as well knew what he was doing. He was just a
Mhm.
murderer.
I agree 100%.
Not necessarily. I think that's something that's different in ours is mine was seeking fame for it or accolades from his coworkers, or he was just bored and filling his days. But yours is, I think, a little more sinister in the fact that he was killing so many people. And I'm sure you have a wide array of ages too, right, Autumn?
Yeah,
Mine were
it
like
didn't
from
really matter what their ages
no,
were.
mine were like from ages 35 until elderly,
Mhm.
It's gross.
So gross because you trust these people.
Mhm. Like Tim.
Yeah. Yeah, like you, Tim.
I'm
We trust
curious.
you.
We
I'm
trust
curious if
you.
people are
I
willing
can't
to look
help
the
it.
other way because it's supposed to be
Yeah.
a caring profession.
Well, and it's under the
Exactly,
guise
yeah.
that they are out there helping people, right?
And they called it, they had a term for it even, passing the trash. Like they didn't want their hospital to be known for the scandal. So they quietly
Fair.
moved him to a different one, which is like, are you kidding me right now? So you're just like, oh, so our patients are safe, but good luck on those ones,
I
people.
mean, look at the history though with a lot of hospitals and stuff over the years, malpractice and
Mhm.
payoffs and all of that, trying to
Very
hide,
true.
things that have happened.
Very
It's
true.
just really unfortunate, but I do want to make sure to point out that there are a lot of good nurses out there.
Yes.
And
And
these
Timmy
are just
is one of them.
And Timmy is one of them. We keep reiterating that. But
Mhm.
I think it's important to remember there are, people out there really doing the work and doing a good job of what they are setting out to do, right? It's a complicated job, and it's also filled with, their complications like grief and,
Mhm.
and the things that you see and, so it's kind of crazy to think about the out of all of the people that have been nurses over all the years, though there are a fair amount of cases out there.
Yes, there really are. There
And
really,
these ones
really
are huge. These ones are huge that we're doing like huge numbers, 300, 400 people. But the majority of nurses are good people out there just trying to do their
Yes.
jobs.
Just trying to do their jobs.
And I
Tim's over there
also-
sweating. He's like, oh God, are they on to me? No, just kidding.
Actually, this is an intervention.
Tim, we have to talk.
I think too, another thing I think I get a different perspective having a best friend that is a nurse. And I'm sure many of you know, as I've talked about on the podcast, that my dad passed away this last year from dementia. So I got to know a lot of nurses over the years. And I
Mhm.
will say there were so many that were so incredibly helpful and everything. But one thing I did notice often as I was in hospitals or in other places, and I get that people are under a lot of stress regarding patients, but people are mean as fuck to nurses. And they
Mhm.
treat them
Yeah,
terribly.
That's very true. Very
and
true.
they're just out there doing their jobs and they're trying to do the right thing. And I don't know why you think yelling at somebody or treating them poorly makes you think you're going to get
Truth.
better care from that. You know what I mean? Because I saw often like people would be yelling at nurses, but if I was just, hey, I understand you're busy. Can you get to this soon or whatever? That goes so far. It's just kind of crazy to me the way people treat nurses. So
Mhm.
remember that in a caring profession that you still need to be nice
Please.
to the nurses out
Yes,
there
you
doing their
do.
jobs, right?
They're human too.
They're human too. And maybe they won't kill your family.
Right? Like, you never know. What if some of these people were nice to Charles? He might have said, not you, not you.
Well, no, but that's the thing. We don't know on both of our cases why they chose the specific people that they did.
Maybe they were like, I didn't ask for this orange Jello. I wanted green. And he was like, death.
He was like,
Death to
you're the
you."
one. It's like that guy that I read about in Germany that was like, yeah, we were just understaffed and I had to off some people to, deal with the shortages.
Oh my
It's
God.
that is literally what the case was, but it was so short I didn't do it.
I just couldn't keep up. So I said, there won't
That's
be
it.
anyone to keep up with.
You don't make the cut, green Jello.
Right? Like,
And I know we're laughing and joking. It's not a funny
it's
matter.
not funny.
But
No, it's definitely not funny.
sometimes you have to make jokes
Yes,
to deal
you
with
have to
this.
lighten it up or you will cry.
Yeah.
'Cause we cry sometimes.
Well, I want to thank Tim so much for being on the show, telling me how to pronounce different types of medications.
The expert.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on, Tim. If you guys enjoyed hearing another person with us, please let us know. Slide into our DMs on Instagram. You can find us at Murder Not Murdering. And if you would like, check out our TikTok where we're going to post pictures and videos so you get to know the people involved in our cases. Then please go to that. That's mnm.pod on TikTok. Thanks again for listening today. Autumn, do you have anything that you need to add?
Yes, I want to say Erin's video is going extra viral. It's at like 3 million or something.
That's
so.
my video on my business, mind you.
Yes, but
not
it's super.
our TikTok.
No, not our. I mean, that was
Share our TikTok, people, please.
Yeah, we had a video that we have 30,000 views on. I thought that was pretty good.
No, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, our one is for the K-pop Demon Hunters night, and that's going to be crazy. I'm actually, as soon as I log off, I am running downstairs and I am going to immediately jump into that very event. So I do have to literally run because it's going to be golden. If you watch the movie, you know that
I
quote.
have not, but I will.
Thanks again, Tim, for being on the podcast.
Yes, we had so much fun with you.
All right. Thanks again for listening. Share with your friends. Watch our fucking TikToks, please. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.